What's going on, y'all? Attorney Tom here. Southern California Edison is facing multiple lawsuits by Altadena fire victims in California State Court. These claims accuse SoCal Edison of negligently managing power line equipment that on January 7th purportedly sparked the Eaton Fire, which has already damaged over 7,000 structures and killed at least 16 individuals. Several eyewitness accounts, videos, and photographs from the Eaton Canyon Fire show emerging from the base of power transmission towers owned and operated by SoCal Edison, including a photo taken just 6 minutes after the reported ignition. SoCal Edison has a history of causing catastrophic damage in Southern California, and in just the last decade, SoCal Edison's electrical equipment was responsible for the 2017 Thomas Fire and 2018 Woosley Fire, both of which destroyed thousands of homes, caused billions of dollars in damage, and displaced thousands of families. In today's video, I'm going to analyze the lawsuits and speak with Bob Simon, a lawyer involved in the case. Bob, how are you?
Doing okay, all things considered, my friend. How you doing, Tom?
Okay. It's no exaggeration to say you represent hundreds of clients at this time.
Yeah, so we probably have right around that amount of people that we're helping. The way that we're going after this is, I'm a trial lawyer. I try cases. I story tell the best. I think that my role in this is to protect the community, to make sure that they're not taken advantage of by firms trying to either charge them too much, by people trying to buy their property to discount, those types of things. I mean, we've literally been sifting through people's homes, find valuables, that kind of stuff. So there's probably already a dozen or so lawsuits that have already been filed. We want to speed up that timeline to try to hold Edison accountable sooner than later. It's already been appointed to a judge in downtown Los Angeles. They have to preserve the equipment and things where the fire started. Edison already tried to do the finger pointing game and say, no, there was a homeless encampment like 300 yards away, which had nothing to do with this. I mean, there's so much origin fire videos that's coming out every single day.
There's video evidence that I see circulating online showing what appears to be the actual ignition.
Yep.
I think for a lay person, and if anybody's watched this channel before, you know that I say that in order to analyze a lawsuit properly, you need three things: liability, damages, pockets to pay. The triangle, yeah, it's a tripod.
Right.
Without
Yep.
one leg, this whole thing fails. Let's start with liability. What are you alleging in these complaints?
Well, I mean, there's several things. I mean, first of all, it's straight negligence. I mean, they have faulty equipment that they've known. They were warned many times of the dry brush to clear it out. They did not do it. They did not respond to any of those. There's a way that you can get attorney's fees through inverse condemnation, right? Because they're literally taking people out of their homes. Several causes of action, in the end, I believe are accountable for this and will be held fully liable. And the people that they harmed they'll have to repay everything from property losses to personal property losses to PTSD to emotional harm and all the things that they took from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so let's go through just a little bit about each individual complaint. So, of course, the four elements of negligence are duty, breach, causation, damages. Can you go through and just explain for anybody who might be listening how you're going to build that case? What duty did SoCal Edison have to the public?
The duty not to let their stuff burn down and cause fires, right? I mean, they literally ignited a fire by having faulty equipment. I mean, their duty is to have a safe environment and to not harm thy neighbor, right?
Sure.
So,
and of course that goes with the breach as well, but I was reading the complaint earlier. It appears that there were warnings prior to the actual ignition of the fire, that there were conditions that were extremely conducive to having fire. And what I would think is the average person might see this case and they say, okay, why is everybody jumping over the Eaton Fire claims and not the Palisades Fire claims? Because, the Palisades appeared to burn as well. And how can you just place the Eaton Fire blame on Edison while a whole nother area of Los Angeles burns and apparently there's nobody responsible?
yeah, so in the Palisade fires, we literally had like a fire hurricane, a perfect storm, 100-mile-an-hour winds, and it looks like a backyard or firework fire that wasn't completely put down. There's still embers of like January 1st or 2nd that just ignited, and it was devastating. And just to give you an assessment, so this is the Palisades. It's close to the water, close to Malibu. It's a fire risk over in that area. A lot of insurers pulled out because it was so fire prone. Conversely, if you go several miles past Los Angeles into Pasadena, Altadena, I'm reviewing people's insurance policies. They rated that a 0 fire risk. 0 out of 10 on these insurance policies was a 0 risk. This was never supposed to happen. So the difference is we all had extremely high winds. Edison warned many times about their equipment, about the dry brush they need to clear it because it's around their power lines. They did not respond. I mean, I've seen some of the responses, and it's disgusting what they did. And one spark, a giant spark happens, immediately ignites the brush. You have severely high winds, and it just burned an entire community.
Wow. About a year ago, I made a video about some wildfires occurring in Texas, and we dove into the power company's failure to maintain equipment, update it. I mean, you would literally have power poles that were near 100 years old.
It's crazy.
Do you know yet whether or not it was old equipment or was it a failure to manage vegetation? Do you have any theory so far on what exactly the underlying issue with the equipment was?
I will bet you it would be both of those things. It would be old, faulty equipment that is decades old, and also not clearing the brush and the vegetation. I mean, these are things, look, they've caused fires like this before, the Thompson fire, it's like learn your lesson, right? I was over a homeowner's property, helping with the emotional toll, documenting her story, and she showed me that they had put up a brand new power pole and power lines in the days after this fire, brand new. And it's like, how were you guys able to do this after the fact, but you didn't do it when you were warned so many times in an area where this can ignite, right? So they have deliberately decided to put profits over people and not spend the money they need to update all of this old faulty equipment, maybe put some power lines underground. I mean, it's expensive, but maybe things would be safer that way, right? I mean, or to at least update them or clear the brush. So
this litigation is going to be expensive too.
Yeah, they're going to have several $1 billion that they're going to pay at the end of this. I'm confident about that.
Okay, so duty. If you are a utility company, because they are not a public utility company, they are a private utility company, that's correct?
And that's the biggest. I see so many people saying, well, this is going to end up coming out of our pocket, taxpayer pocket. Incorrect.
The utility company has a duty to maintain power lines safely, and so they don't cause harm. They breach that duty when their fire lines combusted either due to overgrown vegetation or a lack of maintenance, or a combination of both, in combination with a series of weather events that were highly conducive to fires in which they were warned about, and they could have taken proactive measures to mitigate the risk. Causation, you're of the opinion that but for the power line sparking, the fires would not have spread throughout the canyon, that's correct?
100% correct.
Okay, so that lays down the foundation for negligence. Let's talk about damages. What have you seen? I know you spoke briefly that you have been there. You have been on the scene. What are you seeing with your own eyes?
I mean, I've been there several times. My friends, family, coworkers, their entire property, everything they've ever owned, turned to ash. Think about what would you grab if somebody says the fire's coming, you got to get out of here in 10 minutes. This is reality. People grabbing passports, photo albums, anything they could. One of my friends had the original Hummers, and it's all gone, melted. He had a watch collection, everything turned to ash. And I've been documenting a lot on my social media, just what we're seeing, and it's like 30 blocks of just chimneys and ash. It's the only thing that remains. The houses where they shot 90210, they're all gone. This area is not wealthy celebrity types. These are people that have been there for generations. These are 1920s, 1930s homes. We have a lot of black Americans that live there that have generation wealth because they originally pushed them to Altadena and said this is the only place that you can own property. There's actually 80% of the black families in Altadena owned their property there and took pride in it. Now they have nothing. They're severely underinsured if they have insurance at a valuation that was many, many years ago. And it's just family heirlooms, everything lost. I mean, if you went through there, you would not believe that this is America.
Okay, can we talk about the insurance issue? Because I'm just making assumptions based on what I'm reading online. I don't know if the public necessarily understands that you don't need to have insurance. This is a third-party claim against a third party. If somebody was in Altadena and maybe they didn't even own property, but were injured in the fire, maybe they were burned or got killed, I think the death count that I read on the intro to this was 17. I'm sure it's climbed by the time that this video is coming out. Let's go into damages. I mean, you're obviously representing homeowners. Are you representing any individuals who have personal injury claims at this time?
Yes, there's one woman she's on life support, and it doesn't look good for her. Very sad. I represent some nurses that were at one of the medical facilities, and it was on one of the front page of the LA Times. She was the one that was pushing an elderly gentleman out in a wheelchair to get across the street to 7-Eleven. They all have like severe respiratory issues, and personal injuries that stem from this. I mean, the air up there is just terrible. I mean, you're going to see a lot more of that toxic exposure too. I mean, these are old homes. You have asbestos in the air, you have aluminum, you have all these metals that are just floating around. So no, it doesn't matter. If you have insurance paid you, you still go after Edison, right? Because insurance is never going to make you whole. Insurance cannot pay you for those human harms, those pain and suffering, all the stuff, the mental anguish, the PTSD. Insurance doesn't cover that. Edison's going to pay for all that and all your personal property. Nobody was overinsured for this, right? I mean, we have multi-million-dollar homes insured for $500,000.
Right.
I mean, that's never going to make you whole. Or your personal property, whatever amount you had on there, there's more value that was lost. I have a lot of people that don't have citizenship status that are very afraid. They also have equal rights. In California, you can't even bring that up in the lawsuit whatsoever, somebody's citizenship. What we're seeing now is we have private developers trying to offer cash for lots, which is totally disgusting. It's also illegal. I know our Attorney General is going after people doing that. We're seeing price gouging on rents, which is also illegal, and you shouldn't be doing that. So people are trying to rebuild right now, and they have questions. We have to figure out, is it safe to clear it yet? What's toxic in the air? When can you rebuild? We're now working with the governor and local folks, so they're lifting the restrictions so that you can quickly build. No longer delays on permits for the Malibu Palisades area. You don't have to deal with a coastal commission to build. People are doing those retrofitted homes where you literally can build them and then pop them in. I mean, these are fascinating, which you can do. I don't think it's the vibe for some of the Altadena folks who have lived in these old historic homes, but there's options. People are offering low interest loans. There are these litigation finance companies that can come in and give you money up front on your case against Edison so you can rebuild faster. I say that with a caveat because you should never take out more than you owe. I think that these if you're doing that, these interest rates have to be capped at a certain amount.
Yeah, can I interject? I have never approved my clients taking litigation financing. The interest rates are generally out of this world. I actually had one client take it against my advisory opinion, and it was a total nightmare.
Yep, and it's like take out $1 today, owe $2 tomorrow.
Right.
That's not
and
right.
And just for anybody listening who might not know what litigation financing is, you get fronted in advance on what your claim is worth. In exchange for that, these litigation financing companies charge anywhere from 17 to 20%, maybe even more. The reason why that they can justify that and it's not usurious is because technically these cases are not guaranteed, so they are risking their financial product in the event that the case is lost. The person doesn't owe anything on the claim. But effectively, if these cases go on for 2, 3, 4 years, everything that is the person's entitled to under the claim gets swept away to the litigation financing company. Now, yep. I know some people who are in litigation finance, and they're good people, and not to say that there isn't a time and place for it. I would just probably echo what you're telling your clients to be very careful if anybody were to go down that road.
Yeah, in like some states, like in Iowa, I think you cannot even charge more than 15%. But we see ones that are doing literally 200%, right, in other states.
Yeah. What about the situation where somebody's not a property owner and they weren't injured physically? However, they're forced to evacuate, they're forced to move, they're forced to buy a U-Haul and move to another city or across town and buy another lease. Are those cases?
All of those are cases. So if you're a renter, you've lost all your personal property, your freedom, maybe you're running your business out of your rental home, all recoverable against Edison.
And of course, if you're a business owner, like if you're a restaurant owner in Altadena and now your restaurant, even if your restaurant isn't destroyed, if it was saved by the fire, but now all of your customer base is non-existent because nobody lives there, you can make a loss of business interruption claim as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's like there's also like the city municipalities, like they're also reaching out because they also have rights against Edison because they had property loss. They had to use resources that they otherwise not would have had, right? We had used to have taxpayer dollars because of something Edison did wrongfully. Yeah, in all those situations, if you've had to evacuate if any type of harm, I mean, it's all going to be damages based off of what your losses are, and I truly believe that Edison's going to have to pay for all of that. And with the inverse condemnation is you also get attorney's fees on top of that. So we also tell Edison to pay the 25% contingency fee going against them on top of all that they owe as well, under that provision.
So here come the ambulance chaser comments in the section. I know you said something very interesting that I don't know if non-plaintiffs lawyers would pick up. In that last sentence, you said, we're going to try to go after attorney's fees. So Edison has to pay for our 25%. Now, I don't know about you, but normally, depending on the case, attorney's fees are between 33 and 40%. But you are charging 25% in this particular situation.
Yes, and so when this first happened, we saw a lot of national firms target victims and were signing them up for 40%, 40 on everything from insurance recoveries to third-party liability, which I think is totally inappropriate. I mean, it's crazy.
So let's go into that too. Insurance recovery, and I have a story about this, about my time in Louisiana. I did, probably 1,000 cases in Louisiana after Hurricane Laura, Hurricane Delta, Hurricane Ida. I generally told people to not sign up with a lawyer or not sign up with a public adjuster until they got just fed up with dealing with their insurance.
Correct.
Meaning the insurance carrier is, unless they're just a totally heartless, soulless monster, which some of them are, but if somebody has $1 million worth of damage and they are owed $1 million, most of the time, the insurance carrier, without the help of anyone, will pay at least half of it. You might have a problem getting the second half of it, but it's not in the best interest of the client if they engage somebody, whether that be a lawyer or a public adjuster, at the very beginning, because then that lawyer or public adjuster is going to be getting a percentage of funds recovered that the client would have otherwise just recovered.
Correct. Like you said, that should all just be free work that's why we have the pro bono list of lawyers. I think there's over 100 that sign up for it. And they will literally just ghostwrite, tell people, look at their policies, tell them, ghostwrite the letters to their insurance company so that they pay. And they actually have to pay 30% up front, no questions asked, and then look and evaluate everything. What I'm seeing, a lot of these carriers, you just send them your photograph of the property to show it's destroyed, and they say, okay, here, we're going to pay you everything.
Right.
But there are going to be situations where the insurance company does jerk people around. So far, it seems okay, but there are going to be litigation for insurance carriers that are not doing the right thing. That these are going to be what we call those first-party claims. Which then, that's probably when you do need a lawyer. I do not do those cases personally. Those are different types of specialties, and I know you've done those, Tom. But these are
for anybody who's listening who might be wanting to look up a lawyer who needs that. Again, my recommendation would be only after you have exhausted all resource internally. But you're going to want to Google a first-party insurance lawyer. Bob is a third-party lawyer. He sues third parties. You're going to want a first-party insurance lawyer. So you are not doing those cases. If somebody has an insurance policy and they sign up with you, you're not taking a piece of that. You're going to help them out pro bono, get them the resources they need. You are solely focused on the third-party claim.
That's correct. And what we do is, like, when people call and have a first-party claim, and it reaches past the process where the insurance company did not do the right thing, I'll usually to refer them. I think myself as like the general counsel for these folks and try to find the best options for them. A lot of these lawyers are going to do them for 10%, going after the insurance companies. Again, the local lawyers are banding together to make sure that people aren't gouged on it, and it will be a fight. But a lot of really good firms are going to do it for 10% to fight those insurance companies if they do not do the right thing. But it should be free up until that point.
Yep. Agreed. We don't need to rehash it, but I agree. There will be a minimum amount of money that just gets distributed whether or not a lawyer or public adjuster is involved. A lot of lawyers and public adjusters don't like that statement, but it's true. Okay, so the inverse condemnation claim, what you're alleging is that SoCal Edison's, essentially their negligence, even though it's not a negligence claim, results in what is a Fifth Amendment taking under the Constitution.
Yes.
Does a Fifth Amendment taking apply to a private entity?
Yeah, so it's not only Fifth Amendment, but there's local. I mean, we have statutes here that also like codify inverse condemnation that have attorney's fees tied to it as well. So, yeah, that's the ask is in there. It's in the pleadings, and look, it's one of those things where I would highly doubt Edison would ever want this in a courtroom. I mean, I have already started like mapping out my opening and closing statements because I would salivate to try these cases against them, hold them accountable. But at the end of the day, I truly believe that they're going to pull together enough money to fully compensate people above and beyond, and then we put the attorney's fees on top of that with the inverse condemnation, and it becomes a negotiation. And a lot of these folks who are harmed, just I want you to know that you control your case. You get to decide if you settle or not, and it's your in-pocket recovery number that has to feel right. I'm of the sense that we do all these cases on an individual by individual basis, and they all have unique and individual losses. Some people try to lump everybody together in certain brackets, and I think that is totally inappropriate because everybody's property was unique, everybody's personal property was unique, and everybody's losses are the same. So that's where my mindset is with these, and that's why we've been doing a lot of media with people and interviewing them, showing the human harms that were lost, because I want to show that to Edison and show the world what's really going on.
Wow. Okay. Am I missing anything? Anything else that the people should know?
The timeline, I think, is going to be an 18-month to 2-year battle against Edison. I think what people need right now, I mean, while we're shooting this at the end of January here, is just help with resources, help with like, what do I do next? How do I build? How do I make sure I'm not taken advantage of? What do I do to clear my property? Those are kind of the questions that people need to have answers for. And I think if any lawyers out there that's listening, you can reach out to anybody involved. There's like, we're literally having volunteers to do sifting at properties. We're like, have a pro bono list. People just need their insurance company or their insurance stuff looked after, right? There's a lot you can do to help, regardless of where you are in the world.
And Bob, I'm going to put the pro bono list on the description of this video, as well as every time you bring it up. And Bob, if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Easiest way actually is on Instagram. If you go to Planet Fun Bob, literally just DM me, Planet Fun Bob, and I will respond. I mean, you can see a lot of the videos that I put up about the fires, and I try to make the news cycle not turn because it's very personal to me. Like one of my best friends, his son, who I've known since he was a kid, like their house burned to ashes, but he had just passed the bar. It was like our law clerk had just passed the bar, had just bought his suits that still have price tags on them, and it's all gone. And he had, 2 younger siblings, and we were there last week when they came back to the property for the first time, and it's just heartbreaking, man, to see your home destroyed like that. And yeah, I mean, to say I'm pissed is an understatement, but we channel that anger into something good, don't we, Tom?
Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right, Bob. Well, I really appreciate your time and information. Hopefully somebody watching this or listening to this can take it and go improve their situation because of it.
Yeah, and if anybody reaches out, let me know that you reached out through Tom, because for those who don't know Tom, I know him as being the best general counsel, is finding anybody that has an issue. He knows the specialist that will take care of it. So reach out to Tom directly, because we all know a lot of the people that are working on these cases, and he'll make sure that you guys are fully protected.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye.